Is the slide visible?
Yes.
Yes, it's visible, sir.
Great. President Akio, I have already made you co-host of the trainings because I won't be able to unmute people if someone accidentally unmutes themselves. So please keep a record of that and make sure that the training is as soundless as possible. Sound should only be coming from my voice. But yeah, apart from that, social responsibility, the responsibility of the active citizen, something that we have been hearing for a pretty bit of time, right? My social responsibility is to do this, to do that. But I think we all have a very vague idea of what social responsibility actually is. So let's look at how we actually look into social responsibility, right? So what does this course has to offer, right? This course is actually designed for individual who wants to be very active into the community. That's one. The second thing is, do understand if you are from a company and this is not to implement your CSR programs, and we will have that right once everyone understands corporate social responsibility, and then there are CSR guidelines and global compact principles already in place by United Nations, and we'll definitely get to know about those as well, right? So there are three objectives that we have today, right? That is, one, we know what is CSR. We keep on talking about CSR a lot, corporate social responsibility. We need to understand the impact of our action, the effect of our action, and lastly, we need to understand how we can implement uh, the social responsibility actions in our own circle of influence, right? Because I feel the moment we talk about social responsibility, it's not just responsibility of the corporate, though we'll be largely talking about corporates because they are the one taking most benefit out of the society, but we'll also be talking about individual social responsibilities as well, right? Uh, so the course outcome, as you can see, as at the end of the day, we have to come up with one action that we will do for next 30 days. I would say not just 30 days, we'll do for at least next 3 months, and to see a sustainable impact, and then probably we'll move on to see if we have any other action that we should take, right? So I hope everyone who is in the training have registered online. I can see 25 participants, 26 if you include me, and even I have registered. So there will be a evaluation and knowledge test, and if you pass it, very good. So moving on, right? There are 4 modules that we'll be covering today. So today's training is going to be slightly extensive. I'll definitely try to make it as interesting as possible so that you don't sleep by switching off your camera. So yeah, the first module as we move on to is challenges, right? And while we do these challenges, we have a group work that we have to do, and we will do that, right? So what I will do is I will make sure you guys are divided into because I can see there are 26 people, so I will divide you all into 5 rooms, and then we'll see how that this can be done. So give me just 1 minute to make sure that you guys are into 5 different rooms. Right. So before I assign you to the rooms, what is required is you will be given 5 minutes. Why? Let me come to that. So you will be given, you have a task, that is you draw the world and challenges according to your team's point of view, which means you have to talk. And while you are talking, you also have to make sure that there is one person who is the team lead for this particular challenge or for this particular task. And this person will then explain why or what are the challenges that your team has faced. Do not bring more than three main challenges, right? So in a group of five, or as I can see, there are 27 people. So make sure that there are no more than three challenges per group. So let me move you all to the breakout. Time for the breakout rooms is 5 minutes.
Hello. Hi. Sorry, right. My cam is not working, so I can't on the screen. Where are you from, bro? Let's see. Nice to meet you. I'm from JCI, Malaysia, and my local chapter is Sauki.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Jemima. I'm from Bangladesh, and uh, my local chapter is JCA Fest.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, this is Ramon, and I'm from Dhaka, and my chapter is Dhaka Young.
Mm, okay, so we need to think 5 minutes about the things what we are challenged. So maybe someone can share the screens, right? We can just write it up.
Does anyone have the slides? And I think we should select our team leader.
Yeah. So who are using PC right now actually? So maybe can just like share the screen. What challenges that you have having right now actually? So we can just discuss about it.
We have only 3 seconds left.
Yeah, that's why I'm just asking just now. What challenges that you having right now?
Great. I think everyone should be back now.
Yes, I'm back. We're back.
Great. So let's go for challenge room 5 first, right? So do we have a response from challenge room 5? One person.
Yes, we came up with 3 challenges.
Hmm.
Uh, we mentioned 3 problems in the world. One was flooding, uh, pollution, and another was plastic waste.
So flooding, pollution, and plastic waste, right? These are
Hmm.
the 3 challenges of the world that you have come up with. Okay. Can we have someone from group 1? Challenge room 1.
Sorry, we don't remember
Sara-
our room number.
Saravanan, you are room number 2.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So anyone from room number 1? You don't remember?
I think it was not very clear, Mehdi bhai. So we didn't see the number at this well. So I think you have to mention who was in number 1 or 2, something.
Even I don't remember.
I,
I
I
found
was
it
in
very. All
I
right.
was in room
So let,
number 3, so I can remember my room
yeah,
number.
sure. So room number 3. Anyone with Ashim Kumar Bhai? Who? What are the 3 challenges?
Yeah, this is Anju Saini from JCI Kolkata, India. The 3 challenges which my team we discussed in my team, it was Ashim, Anika, Evik, and one more person. So it's really, I'm really thankful to them for discussing these 3 among us. And the 3 things which we came up, the challenges we came up is, one is in this scenario, whenever there is some big happening in the world, what the first thing when it comes to diseases, it is medical facility and the tools for the medical thing, that is basically. And the second is about the support of people. What happen when any problem comes up, very few people take the initiative of it. Mostly people depend on others. Oh, others are doing, if I don't do it, it won't make any difference. So just understanding their own responsibility, that is the first thing, the support system they can be to the others in this in the scenario or the situations. And the third is economic crisis. When you are onto some project or when you want to do something, it required a lot of effort and money. So it is about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just getting back to AQ again. AQ, your one was flood, pollution, and the other one was
Plastic waste.
plastic waste, right? So flood, pollution, plastic waste, and then we have medical facility issue, people taking responsibility, and economic crisis. Um, Is from anyone, any other group, any three issues that you came up with?
We are room number
Yes.
2. I think we can proceed.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so my teammates were Lokesh, Imtiaz, and Sravanan, and this is what we've managed to draw out. So these are the three problems that we have identified. Let me just take the names just in case it's not clear. The three are population, deforestation, and hunger. And in fact, all three of them are to a very large extent are interconnected. So population growth, explosion of population, deforestation, because of which we are facing crisis, and hunger and poverty. That's the last one. So these are the three from team number 2.
Right. So since population is increasing, we need more place to stay. That's why we cut trees, for which deforestation is happening. And since we have deforestation and more population, which means number of crops getting smaller, which means hunger comes in. So I like the way you thought about the challenges and how they're interconnected. That's good. Um, Anyone else? I think there are two more groups. Can you share?
Hi, this is Saravanan here from JC Hosur Lake City in Tamil Nadu. We list out three or five challenges. We have three members, which are Saravanan, Sanchit, Sanjida, and Nabila Akhtar. First challenge we discussed is the coronavirus. Coronavirus is a major challenge in today's world. And before coronavirus, there is scarcity of water. Scarcity of water because water is reducing, going down day by day. And third one is the pollution. Pollution because industrial hub, so many things are developing today's world. So pollution and economic crisis because due to this coronavirus, we think medical facilities are paying more money towards medical facilities. So most of the countries facing economic crisis. And finally, poverty. We list out five challenges. List out three. Thank you.
Great. Last group. There was one more group. Guys, do you even remember your group? Anyone from that group? All right. If there is none, I will move on. Right. So see the problems that we have identified, right? That we have identified three problems, and I was thinking of getting different problems. So at least if there are 5 groups, 15 problems. But our work was made easier by an organization that we all know, and we call it United Nations, right? So what they did is they found out that tried to figure out what are the problems that there are, and they made sure that all these problems are categorized into, or challenges are categorized into 17 challenges, and we call them any idea what we call these 17 challenges?
17 goal.
UNSDG.
Right.
Sustainable Development
SDGs. So
Goals.
SDG.
SDGs are basically the challenges of the world that needs to be solved by 2030, and that's how we actually come up with ideas. So if you look into let's say for example someone talked about economy, right, and you would see that the SDG number 11 is actually the one that caters to economy. If you look into pollution, if you could see the pollution is divided into 2 categories. One is for the water and water pollution, and the other is for the land pollution. So that way you can see all the challenges are actually divided into the SDGs, and that's what we have to solve, right? But let's move on. You got 5 minutes, so let's listen to this young lady who silenced the United Nations back in 1992. So let's hear it from her.
Mehdi bhai, we can't hear.
Sorry, sir, we can't hear the voice.
Mehdi bhai, we can't hear. No voice.
Was there a problem with the voice of the video?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Can you hear?
We can hear you, but not about the video. But I still no sound.
Bhaiya, I can't hear.
No one can. I think there is a
Good
problem.
morning. I think you also need to share your audio. If you are sharing your screen, also share your audio so that you can hear the video.
Yes.
Try
that
sharing
would be
your
great.
audio.
All right. So best thing that I can do right now is I give you the YouTube link. Watch it for yourself. It's so much available in the YouTube, right? I think that would be better. So let me just share the YouTube link with every one of you. Please go to the video and watch it. Is the sound audible now? No, right?
Sir, when you share
Yes.
a link video, at the bottom or left bottom, there is one box. You have to click that, enable the audio within.
Right. So please click on the link, go to YouTube since you're all connected and watch the video. I think that would be best for everyone.
So you want us to do it now? No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Watch the
Just
video.
take 5 minutes. Just take 5 minutes and watch it.
If you write anything on your computer, you need to get Grammarly. I write pretty much all day, every day, and Grammarly makes my writing. Hello, I'm Severin Suzuki speaking for ECHO, the Environmental Children's Organization. We're a group of 12 and 13-year-olds trying to make a difference. Tessa Study, Morgan Gunther, Michelle. We've raised all the money to come here ourselves, to come stop.
হ্যাঁ কারো ইস্যু থেকে সাউন্ড আসতেছে, ডাউন সাউন্ড হয়ে যাচ্ছে।
Coming up
Guys, are you done?
No, we haven't done yet.
It's all 5 minutes.
Yeah, beautifully said.
So I'm guessing everyone is done. Uh, so when did it happen? As someone already wrote, please use the chat box. Right, 1992. So at the 1992 United Nations Environmental Conference in Rio de Janeiro. And what has been done in the past 2 decades? Any idea, guys? What do you think? After this speech was done, have we done anything?
It's about go green projects we have been doing after that.
Right, we have done green projects. Any other suggestions that we have done?
We have been careful and environment friendly, and we wanted to reduce pollution and carbon emission. We have been checking all these things as a like carbon footprint and all these things. This was yeah.
Right.
From 2000 to 2015, UN organized this Millennium Development
Also
Goals.
getting right to the Millennium Development Goals. Then in 2015, the SDGs.
Right. So after this was done, we moved to MDGs, and then in 2015 we got away from MDGs and started working on SDGs. Right. And in the history of United Nations, MDG was the biggest failure that ever happened. So let's look at what actually they say. So in the past 2 decades, we made the corporates more socially responsible. That is the main thing that we actually did. However, for me, I think we haven't really done anything, because the same thing that happened in last year as well, right? How many of you know Greta Thunberg? Raise your hand, or just write it in the chat box, or just raise your voice if you want to say, right? So we all know Greta came up and talked about the same issues, the same problems, and it felt like I'm back in 1992 and listening to those problems over and over again, right? So basically, though we have been trying to do a lot in the last 2 decades through corporate social responsibility, we somehow have done more harm to the society than doing more good, right? And we feel that is a problem because corporate social responsibility was not done in the correct manner. So let's look at CSR, right? What is CSR to you? Uh, Obviously, we will form teams of 3, and it will be obviously different from the first team. Uh, what we will do is we will share our experience with CSR as a team, come up with short definition of CSR. So as I can see, there are 35 teams. We'll try to make sure that there are 5 people in a group, right? Because we can divide them into 5 groups. So we'll divide it into 5 groups and make sure that you guys are back exactly after 5 minutes. Is that okay? So what you have to do is share your CSR activities, and as a team, uh, come up with a short definition of CSR, or you can also give an example if you require. So go for it.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Isn't hi, I'm Anika. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm in JC Dhaka Young.
Hi, this is Harsh Saravanan from JC Hotur Lake City, from JC India.
Hi, Ashim here from JCA Bangladesh, National Director.
Hello. So since we don't have a lot of time, let's just get into it. Because last time we couldn't discuss a lot, and then time ran out.
First thing is we have to discuss about what is CSR. Am I audible?
So
yes.
Yes, please.
So what is CSR? CSR nothing but a corporate social responsibility.
Yes.
Fine. So anybody tells what actually it works? How it works?
Sorry, I can't hear you properly.
In every company, like corporate company, they have some responsibility to the society, so they do some corporate social responsibility, like some social work to help the society to become sustainable in every aspect. They are facing problems. So
Yeah.
so different company plays a different roles. They have a different goals for the society, that what actually relating to their activities. Depends on the company to company. It's not like that is a general goal for everyone. So some companies are doing different types of CSR than other companies. So they are trying to relate along with the align with the company activities. This is how they are doing.
That means every company is spending some percentage of amount towards the society, right?
So sorry, your voice is not actually clear. I don't know what's.
Yeah. I can't. Sorry, I can't hear your voice as well. I think what Asim Bhai said is absolutely spot on. We'll go with that. The CSR is corporate social responsibility. Basically, it's a company's responsibility on the social issues, right? If I say it a bit simply, something like that. Is it?
Yes.
Okay. So next we have to share some of our stories of CSR. Would anyone like to share?
Hello.
Hello. Yes, please.
Where is the other members? There is 6 members. Others are quiet.
Yes. Someone please share a story of CSR. I can't remember. Like I'm trying to think of a example. Like I can't come up with anything. Please, if anyone has any story, please share of CSR?
Where's the other four people?
Am I audible?
So like I can say something like, you know, in Chittagong there is some school that people does, I mean the students doesn't have the shoes. So from one of shoe companies, you know, so they distributed like 500 pairs of shoes for the school going students. So this can be one CSR project, you know, to help them, you know, go to the school with shoes. So this is how actually people are doing.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes, yes.
Oh, thank you. Actually, here in my state, I mean, Tamil Nadu, Ashok Leyland company is there. He's running a CSR project. What he's doing that there are so many government schools are there. There are very less teachers. For example, student ratio teachers was not there. So what they did is he recruit teachers to the schools, and they take care of the schools. So, and in another thing is they are giving breakfast to the government school students. Breakfast to the government school students every day. So these type of projects they are doing, CSR they are doing.
Okay, okay. That's fantastic. Can you please explain when the trainer asks? I think because you gave a very good example. You can say when he asks you. Is that okay?
I think Saravanan can proceed with this.
Yes, yes, please. Yes. Is that okay?
Okay, thanks for the discussion. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
We'll see there.
Thank you.
We are room number 4. Okay.
We're
Everyone is back. So what you have to do is, the question was pretty simple. What is CSR to you? So from each group, one person, please write in the chat box one single liner, right? I know you have a lot of discussion that you then went on, but write one single line, making sure that it covers everything you actually talked about. One single line to the answer, what is CSR to you? So I'm expecting 5 answers. What is CSR to you? Giving back to the society, a part of the profit made from the society, a responsible job for me. 3 more answers. This time I'm not asking group, because I don't know whether you remember your group names or not. But yeah, 3 more answers, guys. Fast. A project to raise awareness. Integrate with social and environmental things, align with company activities. And lastly, being accountable to the public. Okay, there are more than 5 answers coming. Good, no more answers, right? So being accountable to the public and other stakeholders by giving back. Corporate social responsibilities to reduce any damaging effects on environment from business process. All right, everyone is caring so much about the environment. That's good. Corporate follow the right way to operate their business in the first place. Some companies compensate after the damage and call it CSR. CSR is doing it right the first time. Awareness to the society. Every corporate company should share some profit percentage to the society. All right. There are a lot of answers where you felt that the corporate should behave, right? And we know that most of the times they don't, because if you look into the society right now, what we basically see is corporates doing whatever they want to, um, in the name of business or in the name of profit making, right? And we have seen a lot of that happen in recent times, right? We have seen companies coming up and faking corona tests in order to earn profit and earning money from it. So CSR in a nutshell is this, which is the voluntary commitment by business to manage its activities in a responsible way. We do not want their profit margin. We do not want them to raise awareness in the society. What we want is these businesses manage their activities in a responsible way. Now, what is an irresponsible way? And this is what I actually saw in the chats, right? Irresponsible ways are where you make sure that the environment is somewhat impacted, right? And the biggest examples are carbon footprints that we already see. We see the global warming, or as we call it, is a big problem that is happening right now. And these happen because the businesses did not manage their activities in a responsible way. So, does compensating help? Probably yes, probably no. But as I already saw an answer that tells us that you have to do it the right time, which means right before you get into or you start a business, your ideas or your principles should be aligned to make sure that you are doing it in a very responsible manner. So that ends our first module, right? Challenges. So the biggest challenge in the world right now is making sure people act responsibly or corporate act responsibly. And that's why we come to the second module, which talks to us about principles, right? This is the favorite module that I have in this entire uh, presentation. So what is principles, right? And let's look into the background of CSR uh, as how it helped, right? So basically, when we have CSR, why there was a necessity of social responsibility, is because there were so many challenges. There were monopoly, there were focus on profits, and because of the focus on profits, we actually did not care about people or environment or anything to begin with. Right, the more money we get, the better for us. Even though we don't know how we will spend that money, we really don't care, and that's why we felt that in order to decrease that greed, right? How many of you know, because some of you are from India and some of you other places, right? We know there in India, and recently a series also brought this out, right? That the head of, as we know, Ravan, actually talks about greeds, right? Talks about all the bad influences or all the bad characteristics that a person can have, and it's also mentioned in Bible about the seven things, right? Or the seven sins, as we all know it, right? Do we know the seven sins? Anyone? What are the seven sins that are actually really bad, right? Give me the first one that actually causes problem for human beings. No idea. Right. So the seven sins, as we already know, uh, are mentioned in the Bible and are actually very bad. So the first sin, as we all know, is lust, right? And that is the biggest problem of cheatings happening here and there. The second one being gluttony. How many of you know what is gluttony? What gluttony is?
Eating too much.
Anyone know what gluttony is? I want an answer. No, not. Please unmute yourself if you know.
when you think too much, what is should overeating?
I don't hear you.
I think gluttony means is a habit of eating excess. Like when people eat too much, it's near. I think it's like this gluttony.
So
Gluten.
right, Ashinder. So I am the product of gluttony, right? That is one of the sins that I have, and that causes overweight, that causes heart disease, that causes so many things, right? And somehow we can't really avoid overeating, and that's why we see a rise in terms of obesity, right? And that is also a problem. The third one, and this is considered to be the most crucial one, is greed. And this greed is actually the one that causes maximum amount of problem, right? Greed in terms of everything. So when we look into the seven sins, those are the ones that actually cause us to act irresponsibly, right? Because those seven sins determine in what way should I go, how should I behave, how should I eat, how should I dress, how should I talk to people, and all these things, right? So if you look into the seven sins, right, last, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. Sloth is the reason we had 80 people who registered and only 30 showed up, right? And right. So these are the things that we actually see into the society. So let's get back to the slide, right? And I think we'll get to know more. The background of CSR, as we already discussed, is social responsibilities are important because we somehow are directed towards making sure our sins gets the best of us, and that's why we make sure people are more socially responsible. So the principles that are required to behave, or CSR principles, that is, one, behave ethically, which means come out of your sins, contribute to the economic development, create prosperity, and improve the quality of life, right? So quality of life of who? Employees, families, local community, and society at large, right? So if you look into this particular idea, when we think of corporates, primarily they want to benefit the shareholders, but it's very important that it's not just the shareholders, it's the stakeholders who needs to benefit from it, right? So what is the difference between shareholders and stakeholders? Anyone?
Okay.
Can I take that one?
I can try.
Please, Sanjay Apu, go ahead.
Somebody's talking actually.
Right.
The shareholders are. I can't hear what the other person just said. Can you repeat, or I can say again?
No, Sanjay Apu, please go ahead.
Okay. So the stakeholders are everyone who is involved in the process, or like who will be affected by the process. That could be not only the person who owns it. Stakeholders are the ones who is the owner, or who has direct direct report, or are directly involved with the what particular things we're doing, work or something.
Right. So let's say, for example, I start a business. What business can I start? Can anyone suggest?
Leather goods.
Right. So
You
I
will have
start
lot
a
of
business of leather goods. Very good. So I make purses for women and belts for guys. That's the business. So who would be my stakeholders?
Stakeholders will be everyone, like our employees, to your supply chain management, whoever is there, like your suppliers, your vendors, your everyone who is involved in this business, and also like your clients, your customers, and that will be your all your shareholders.
And I
Sorry.
also also see Arpan Bhai here as well. So Arpan Bhai, who would be my stakeholders?
Mehdi bhai, I'm really sorry, but I was actually doing the registration. I have faced some problems, so I have missed your
Simple question.
question.
All right. So the question is, I am starting a business of leather goods. I will make powders and belts. So who would be my stakeholders in this particular business?
Your stakeholders will be your suppliers and someone and your customers as well, and also someone who have invested in your business, and also the people around your, if you are working in a, if you are doing a workshop. I'm really sorry, I can't uh, catch the word, but your suppliers, your customers, and also the people around your in the territory of your workshop actually, that the leather actually
All right.
harms the air, so the people around your workshop.
Great.
Maybe there is a problem in the form.
Yes, I was supposed to say that when the
The country field is number. It should be text.
and yes, the local chapter as well.
Yeah, we can't fill up. We actually.
So as we know, as I was hearing from all of you, you guys are actually talking about people, right, as stakeholders. But as we all know, it's not just people who can be stakeholders, right? It has to be not just people. So who else can be stakeholders apart from people?
The environment,
Right.
the
So we have been
animals
talking.
around.
Right. So we have been talking a lot about the environment in our first module, right? And somehow when we came back to the second module, we somehow forgot that environment can be a stakeholder, and that is the problem with corporate social responsibilities today, right? The fact that these people talk a lot about environment but really doesn't do anything is because of they don't consider environment as something important. So for stakeholder analysis, there are 3 P's that we look into CSR, right? People that you have been talking about so long, right? So uh, inbound and outbound people, people living near you, people living away from the business, all are people that you talked about. The second thing is planet, and something that we often forget. Planet is one of the biggest stakeholders when we start a business, because if I start a leather business, no, if I'm producing anything, there will be a lot of wastage, right? Because leather goods produce a lot of wastage, and normally what people do is throw those wastages in the river, causing a huge amount of problem for the water pollution. At times those wastes are thrown in lands, landfills are created, and ultimately uh, it creates a lot of problem. And lastly, it's the prosperity, right? So what is prosperity? It is the uh, economic prosperity for all of us, and continuity, right? So I think these are the 3 problems, or these are the 3 P's of CSR that we always look into, right? That whenever we start a business, are we causing economic prosperity, or are we creating problems? So when I am into the leather business, I have to make sure that I'm not creating a monopoly, right? So that the prices goes up. Uh, can you name one monopoly business in your own country?
Bangladesh Railway Station, Railway.
You can name many state monopolies.
Yeah, there's like power. Our DESO is a flower supply. It's monopoly as well.
Yeah, but DESCO is it's not a private business, is it?
No, do you want us to be saying which is the like private business? Okay.
Right. So because Desco does not look for profit, do they?
No, no. Yeah.
Right. So any government CSR is not necessary for government businesses, because they always look for all these three. They make sure these three are actually protected, like, because their main motive is to support the people and not make profits, because there is no shareholders for the government uh, processes, right? So tell me one monopoly that happens in your own country. For Bangladesh, how many of you think that we had a monopoly for a long period of time in the uh, data, or as we call it, the telecom sector?
Citycell was there, maybe.
Right. So Citycell was selling a set for 1 lakh, 2 lakh, and even after Citycell, we also saw a monopoly coming from GP, right? When we used to say hello, and they used to that used to cost us about 7, 8 taka, right? If I correctly remember. So that is one of the monopolies that I had in India, right? So there is Jio, which has a huge monopoly, making sure that Airtel and the others are Vodafone and the others are actually suffering a lot. Uh, and I feel that is one of the biggest problems that we see in most of the countries, right? Where there are two or three telecom sectors are allowed to function, it gets a huge amount of monopoly. And I really thank Banglalink for coming up in Bangladesh, right? Because I remember the moment Banglalink came in, the prices got down from 7 taka to 1 taka per minute, then to 60 paisa per minute. So, and I see still there is a price, right? Maggie noodles, right? So Maggie noodles dominated Bangladesh for a long time. True, but I think it still dominates, right? Because I don't like the taste of noodles or other uh, one that are there. But that's in the instant noodles sector. I think in the noodles sector we had Coca-Cola, our all-time favorite, right? Which is really good. Colgate in India, I wouldn't say Colgate because there is Pepsodent, which is giving it really high competition. Uh, However, all right. So we have Maggie in Philippines as well. That's good. The one of the other monopolistic behavior that we see from one of the corporations is in the tobacco sector, right? If I correctly remember, we have British American Tobacco taking a large chunk of the tobacco sector in Bangladesh, India, and other places, right? Also, we have seen so many others. So I think that is one of the problems of prosperity. But let's go and discuss about people first. We'll come to prosperity later again, right? So people, the human capital, and we see most of the time that fair practices for employees and families are not there, right? For example, for employees, we do not ensure that they are working in a safe environment. All we care about is one group type of people in there. And what is that type of people that we care about is the shareholders. So when we talk about people, we need to understand that what are the people involved into the society. And we talked a lot about it, about the stakeholders in the company activity, the people around the factory, people around the company, people who will be creating issues and all that, right? So that is one thing that we need to understand. The second one, which is the planet. Anyone tell me the most important thing about planet, or the most important company that deals with planet? Anyone? How many of you watched this movie called Blood Diamond? It's a pretty nice movie uh, where we actually make sure that the natural resources are doomed to its maximum, right? Even a movie that tried to depict somewhere else, right? Called Avatar, right? And we have all seen Avatar, right? Avatar is also something that tells us that don't care about the planet if uh, you get profit at the end of the day. So there are a lot of movies you can see where the planet is not cared, and mostly it's about the natural resources, so oils and gases. And the biggest example in the current world where the planet was not protected because of the grid was the oil spill by British Petroleum, or BP oil spill, and it's one of the top of this in the last decade, right? Where it caused huge amount of problem for people, huge amount of problem for everyone, by the oil spill in the sea that caused a lot of fish dying. The entire process of the sea got hampered. So that is what is very important, that you need to protect the environment and conserve natural resources, right? So sustainable environment practices are very important. Non-degradable waste has to be disposed. You need to avoid ecologically destructive practices. Cost should be analyzed in the long run. And lastly, most important, though it's not written here, is every decision that you take, you need to care about how it's going to impact the environment and leave as less carbon footprint as possible. The last one, prosperity, and we were already talking about it, right? So what does prosperity talks about? That economic benefits by the host society. So let's say, for example, if you are having a, let's say, factory in Chittagong, right? Make sure that the people of Chittagong are being benefited from that particular factory, or because you are having that factory there, right? So the economic impact on the environment has to be very much focused, and human and society gain. So for example, the biggest example that I can come up with is when you have garments in Gajipur or in Naranda, we see people hire uh, employees from that particular region. That's one. Second, we also see schools being built up in that particular region by these particular garments, right? So these are the few examples that we see where the economy or economic prosperity of that particular area is taken into consideration, and that's good. And that is why, if you look into every aspect that happens, how many of you have been to aspect? Just write in the chat box, and I can or raise your hands which one you prefer, right? So if you have been to aspect, you would see all the time aspect happens in a very remote area of that particular country, right? For example, when aspect happened in Taiwan, it happens in Kaishuang, right? Or when it happened in Korea, it happened in Jeju Island and not in the main city of Korea. Or when it happened in Malaysia, where was aspect Malaysia? Can anyone tell me? No one. uh, where did aspect happen in 2019? Korea. In 2018, India. Where did it happen in India?
World Congress in Goa.
Aspect by aspect. Right, in India it happened in aspect 2018 was in India, Goa, if I correctly remember.
That was World Congress.
Right. So Japan was World Congress. So if you see all the areas that they select for aspect or even World Congress, these are very remote areas. Now, why does JCI does that? Any idea?
Probably to reduce amount of like, because there will be a lot of people going, so we will pollute the environment around wherever we go. So probably to reduce that, and if it's already a populated area and we again, as so many people, so many of us goes there, it becomes more and more polluted, the area.
Right.
Probably
Pollution.
that's maybe one reason.
So your idea is because of the pollution, right? Jemima, you are there. So why do you think it happens in very remote areas of the country? Aspect happens in Bangladesh, it will happen probably in Joshore and not in Dhaka, Chittagong, or Sylhet. Why is that?
Can I?
Jemima.
Yes, yeah. I, I have no answer, sir, but I think I should think about it.
Right. So while you think about it, let's go and ask. We have Mr. Rafiqul Islam Rumon with here. So, Mr. Rumon, what do you think? Why does it happens in very remote places? Right. Let's move to Ishan. Ishan, right? Yeah, you're right. I think ASPEC was in Japan and World Congress was in Goa. But why do they happen in remote areas?
Actually, I don't know whether we can agree on that it's a remote area because at least the aspect that happened in Japan was at Kagoshima, and Kagoshima, Japan was quite a developed place in itself.
Okay.
And when it happened here in Goa, the host home was JCI Panjim, which is the capital city of
Mhm.
the entire state of Goa, which is worldwide known for tourism, anyways. So, at least on that aspect, I'm not very sure about it being at a remote area because at
Right.
least in
But in
2002,
others,
it
but
was
in other times, I think it happens in very remote places.
probably the General Assembly decides every now and then it changes its policy also maybe.
Right. So one of the main reasons why it happens in remote places, and I already saw the answer coming from Anju, is economic development. So whenever any aspect happens, what happens is a lot of people or global congress happens or world congress happens, we see a lot of people going to that particular area, which means hotel benefits for 3,000 to 4,000 people. Uh, those particular remote area gets a lot of benefit, economic benefit by that. They move to different places, they buy local products, they eat local food. So you would see the economic impact of all the aspect and the global congress that happens is very high, and it somehow helps develop that particular remote area uh, for a longer period of time, and that's what is followed in JCI, right? When we think about anything happen, we try to avoid because for a global congress to happen, it would make sense if it happens in Mumbai or where there is Taj Hotel and all the amazing hotels are there, right? But it did not happen when the World Congress happens. Or for if we look into any other places, or if it happens in Dhaka, it would make sense. But we would not want that to happen because Dhaka is already prospering, right? And even as we know, because when it happened in Goa, the last time we went there, it was I got to know it from the mayor that Goa was suffering from economy of Goa was suffering, and that's why they have hosted it there. So this is what JCI tries to do, right? They bring tries to prosperity with everything that's related to aspect or any other area congresses, right? So review of the global challenges, third, right? Uh, I think this is a job that I will let you guys do. So you brought a lot of challenges that we wrote in the chat, right? So let's say, for example, pollution. So which P would be considered under pollution? Planet. Very good. So what were the other problems that we discussed or the challenges that we discussed? Hunger. Let's say poverty. So where does poverty fall? Does it fall under people or does it fall under prosperity? I would say overpopulation falls under people, and poverty would probably fall under prosperity. So let's say, because if you have economic prosperity, you can always ensure that there is no poverty to begin with. So I think that's how the global challenges. So all the global challenges that we have falls under three criterias: planet, people, and prosperity. And these are the three criterias we also consider. If you remember, when we did JSA impact, these are the three criterias that we try to look at, that whether these three criterias are being actually helped when we take a project in our hands. So Right. So you don't have to count from 1 to 3. This happens when we are physical. So what I would ask you is you yourself assign to one particular group. So how you do that is you can rename yourself. So I already see you guys have names, right? JC, Lokesh, or SG. So just write planet in front of your name, or people in front of your name, or prosperity in front of your name to tell me exactly where which particular group you want to fall in, right? So you have 2 minutes to rename yourself. 1 minute, you don't need 2 minutes to rename yourself. 1 minute to rename yourself. Just write people while you rename. If you don't know how to rename yourself, just click on yourself and there is a rename button that there is, right? So yeah, rename yourself to people, prosperity, or planet. I can already see few people did. People who haven't done it yet: Ronnie Bhaiya, Anika Apu, Ashik Farabi, Ashik Bhaiya, Oshinda. Please rename yourself either to people or prosperity or planet. Ikyo,
Hello. So I want people to rename my. I'm using my phone. It doesn't have an option to
yeah,
rename.
even in phone, you can rename yourself. So if you go into
Go to
the
the participants list. From
Okay.
there, you click on your phone. Then you can have the option.
to rename yourself, right?
In phone, how can it possible to do to change the name?
By go to the participants section list. From there, you see yourself. Just click on that, and you see there is a rename option.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Right. I guess you're done. So let's get back to the slide. So once you're done renaming yourself, what we will basically do is this is an individual task, and you keep it to yourself for a group task later, or you can write it in the chat. Is you come up with one action you could do to help with the challenge under your assigned P. Don't write it on a post-it note, but write it on the chat or write it in the paper in front of you, because it will be required in a group task that we will do later. So take 2 minutes, and I would really love to see some amazing actions that you take under your particular name. One action that I'd really love to see you taking. We have Anika Apu raising her hand. Anika Apu, please.
Yes, Bhaiya. I just wanted to know what kind of action were you looking for? Is it like anything particular? Like I was thinking of empathy or showing gratitude to others, something things like that, or do you mean
Something
something
more
more?
tangible, Apu. Let's say, for example, your action would be to create a school close to your company, so that the people who or employees who work in your company, their children can study there for free.
Oh, okay, something large and something which is like benefits economically or
Something that can
financially,
be,
something like
yeah,
that.
right,
Okay,
right.
okay,
So
okay,
since you
okay, got
chose
it.
people, that's what I said, right?
Yeah, okay, okay, got it. Thanks.
Right. So we got few answers already. One is employment opportunity to local people, skill development training and employment thereafter from people, transgender getting equal rights. I love it. So make a school for their free education system. But why can't they study in the existing schools? Why do they have to have separate schools? That's a question that you need to ask yourself. Planet to get fresh oxygen, right? So planting trees that you want to do uh, to protect the environment. That means of planting more trees to provide education for non-discrimination on the basis of gender. Right. Where is prosperity? I'm seeing planet and people coming up. Where is prosperity, guys? Where are your solutions? Right. Yes, Jemima, please say. I think you wanted to say something.
Yes, I want to just say that if we give the translator a free education, it will be help them for the first step for their own self. Why not? It's the common schooler, because in our society the people do not accept them very easily. So if we target on few of the people and make them eligible for everyone and show them that they're eligible for everything what we are the common people did, so after that we can mix up in the common school. I think so. I'm not sure any other opinion,
Yeah,
but
I think that's a pretty good idea. Like, make them eligible first to mix with common people. Uh, but a more inclusive approach would be to make sure that yes, their education will be paid for in a local school where they can communicate with others. Because one of the social problems that we already see is that transgenders are not considered part of the society. So in order to
yes,
make them part of the society, it's important that the corporates push them to be part of the society by various actions, positive impacts actions. So obviously we can always have a separate school for them the way we have for let's say, for example, differently able children, or as we like to call them, autistic kids. Obviously we have separate schools, but an inclusive school makes their life much easier and make them more inclusive, as more socially inclusive approach is done. So that's how I think it works, right? So we got prosperity finally. That is let's talk about recycling of waste. I think that is a very good. So you're targeting both prosperity and planet at the same time. and I think it's already done. If you look into one of the recent uh, Coke bottles, right? How many of you had water from Aquafina, or what is the name of the Coke's water brand? I forgot.
It's basically Kinley.
Kinley, right? So Kinley or Aquafina. If you look into the recent bottling, right? Primarily the bottle was slightly hard, and what we used to do, you used to reuse it. We used to keep water in it, put it in our fridge or daily uses, right? Something that we do with Bisleri bottles in India, because the bottles are hard and we think they can be used over and over again. However, Coke and Pepsi, they realized that this is a wrong approach and they made their bottles much thinner, so they cannot be used again. So we have to make sure we throw away the bottles, or we put the bottles away, and those bottles are then again recycled, so that people do not use those bottles over and over again. So reuse of bottles are ensured, and recycling of uh, water bottles by Pepsi and Aquafina are used. Also, we see, if we look into other countries, and this was one of my favorite things that happened when I went to Germany, is there are machines where you can submit the bottles and you get paid for it. So if you drink a bottle of Coke and then you put the bottle in the like empty bottle in the machine, what happens is you get 25 cents back. And since a Coke, I think a Coke bottle was €1 at that time. So if I had 4 Coke bottles, that I used to get 1 bottle of Coke for free, because I used to get €1 at the end of that if I submit all those 4 bottles. So these are the few ways where companies make sure that their recycling and processes are happening. However, in order to understand this deeply, right, or whatever actions we should take, the United Nations had made sure that there is a process of all the actions that you take, right? So let's look into what are the processes that United Nations suggest, and we call it the United Nations Global Compact, right? The United Nations Global Compact is an international initiative to bring everyone under 10 principles. So already we talked about a lot of actions that we can take, but all these actions has to be taken under universal principles, right? And it has been divided under 4 criteria: human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. uh, so we all know we have a cooperation agreement. JCI has a cooperation agreement with UNGC. A lot of corporates has agreement with UNGC as well. For example, I work in a Swedish consultancy firm, and we have a cooperation agreement with UNGC as well. And I'm sure the companies that you work with have that as well. If not, please check and make sure you're part of UNGC. Uh, so 4 categories, as we already talked about, whatever the values against people: human rights, labor, environment, anti-corruption. And there are 10 principles across these 4 categories. So under human rights, there are 2 principles. The first principle is business should support and respect the protection of internationally approved human rights, which means you cannot employ child labor, you cannot provide unsafe places for people to work, you cannot make someone work for more than 40 hours. At times, I know that none of you work for 40 hours and work more than that, but if that's happening, that's actually a violation of human rights. So those are the very basic human rights. So if you want to know more about what other human rights there are, you can always check it. uh, but let me ask a very simple question: how many of your bosses shout at you?
Not with me. No.
You can write it in the chat if you don't want to talk about it. uh, but if your boss is shouting at you and that's causing you mental trauma, and that's causing you stress and a lot of other mental health issues, know that is a violation of human rights. And you can always, if you're registered under UNGC, you can always put a complaint against your line manager or your boss. Or if you are a boss, make sure you do not violate this sort of human rights, because I even saw at times bosses use physical violence, which are really really bad, right? Some of the other human rights violations are sexual tension, sexual banters, making comments about someone's physique, someone's face, someone's look, someone's anything, or you. So those are actually violation of human rights. The second one is business should ensure their suppliers respect human rights. So not only you practice it in your own office, you make sure your suppliers or people you are buying things from, they are also maintaining it in their own office, which means they are maintaining that compliance. If they are not, you are not allowed to do business with them. So one of the main reasons we see when European buyers or any other buyers come to Bangladesh, what they do is check for compliances, right? The basic reason is they try to ensure that the suppliers are actually having human rights. So yeah, someone raised hand, Planet raised hand. So yeah, please go
So,
on.
on the
Thank you.
topic of suppliers, ensuring suppliers are doing the same, I just thought of something that one of the most controversial industries in the world is diamond industry. Diamond industry, the sources of diamonds has always been uh, always controversial because it was mainly mined in Africa and they use a lot of child labor there. So one of the new things that uh, people in who are aware are trying out is asking the source of this diamond. So there is now given a certification from a third party that is actually goes to the supply chain and actually ensures the whole process of sourcing to customer. And after they evaluate and see that okay, the source is verified, they give a certification to that organization. So having that organization ensures that this diamond did not come from a controversial source. So this is one of the way of ensuring that one of the most controversial uh, uh, industries in the world is still adopting to a new thought pattern.
True, very true. I think that is also what we see in most of our suppliers, right? For whenever we select a supplier, we check whether they're ISO certified, right? So, for example, ISO 9001, ISO 14001, or whether they have OCOTEX, or so all these certifications ensures that human rights principles are upheld at its best. And if not, please make sure they are not your suppliers. If they are employing child laborers, if they're behaving bad, behaving rough, or their workplace is not safe, make sure you push them to make it as good as possible, right? I know it's very tough in developing countries, but try to ensure that. The second criteria is labor standard principles, right? So when we talk about human rights, we also need to talk about labor standards, right? So the first principle, there are four principles in labor standards. The first principle is business should accept and recognize the right of collective bargaining, right? So what is right of collective bargaining is you just don't say uh, this is your salary and it's non-negotiable. That is not an acceptable way. So there should be an acceptable way. Though you set a particular salary structure, you should also keep room for negotiation when you hire someone, not just in laborers but also in your employees, right? The second is business should never use forced and compulsory labor. We often do that, and if I remember, in this time of Corona, this is the most utilized, unutilized form of principle that is happening, right? So since a lot of us had to stay home for a lot of time because of Corona, because we were maintaining social distancing, when we went back, we were made to work for longer hours forcefully, and they said if you don't do that, uh, you are out of the job. And in order to save our job and our family, we had to do that, even though we did not wanted to work 16 hours a day, uh, to be very honest, right? So make sure whatever the situation is, never use forced and compulsory labor. You can always appeal to the humanity of these people and tell them that since the business is suffering, please help us. If they choose not to work for longer hours, do not force them. Also tell it to your boss. Right. The other two principles is abolishing child labor. We already talked about it. The simple reason being a child can never provide consent to work. So one of the biggest thing that is very important is freedom of choice. A child freedom of choice. If a child is working, it's obviously coming out of poverty and other issues where the government has really failed. But do not utilize or manipulate that particular failure of the government and employ child labor at a low cost just to make enough profit. That is the worst form of humanity that can be seen in anywhere. So avoid doing that. If you really want to help a child, make sure he's going to school, provide schooling for him for free. You can do so many things instead of putting him into your factory. So yeah. And lastly, business should not discriminate for employment and occupation. And discrimination should not happen which means just because I am an MBA graduate, I am way better than someone who's not an MBA graduate and working in a different industry, in a different occupation. That sort of discrimination should not happen. Uh, and we see this sort of discrimination happening in Bangladesh right now, right? Because when people go, let's say for example, I went go to interview for a particular job, and someone else also comes, we somehow look at better universities first, and we think that they have produced better individuals, and we somehow discourage taking students from slightly lower universities, right? For example, IIT and IIM in India gets more jobs because they are preferred more compared to any other universities that are in India. Or in Bangladesh, Dhaka University and probably North South in the private sector gets more jobs or BUP than probably National University or let's say Southeast universities to begin with, right? And that sort of discrimination should not be done when businesses goes for employment and providing occupation. The next principle is focused on environment principles, right? So there are three environment principles that we look upon. Number one, business should foresee and implement environmental protection measures, right? So if you're having any sort of business that has a possibility of environmentally harming it, always make sure you do a feasibility analysis and take enough environmental protection to make sure it does not happen. The next principle is promoting environmental responsibility. So not only you take measures, but you also promote environmental responsibilities. And that is what we saw when someone talked about planting trees. And we see that happening for a lot of corporates, that they plant trees and try to make sure it happens. We also saw Banglalink at one point of time coming up and cleaning the seashore in Cox's Bazar. So that is also a form of promoting environmental responsibility, and that is something that should be uh, done by corporates. And the last one is business should develop environmentally friendly technologies. So this is something that we know environmental friendly technologies are pretty costly, but always try to do that as much as possible. The biggest example that comes in my head right now is how we make bricks, or if you ever been to brick fields, you can see the technology that is being used causes huge amount of environmental damage by releasing uh, treated carbon into the society, right? We can see black fogs coming out of every brick field. So those are untreated carbons, carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, right? So there are environmentally friendly technologies that actually processes this carbon and then releases them into the atmosphere. So whenever we try to do anything, make sure that to check whether there are environmentally friendly technologies are there and are we using it or not. And I really love to hear example about this from you. Uh, anyone can come up with an environmentally friendly technology that is being used at your office.
Maybe can I?
Yeah, please, man.
Yes, I used to work in a cement manufacturing company, Holcim Cement. So cement producers are famous in a wrong side that they pollute the environment most. So in our Dhaka factory, right beside the Meghna Ghat, so whenever you are packing the cement bag, many dusts are coming out. So there is an environmental technology we later bought. That's the dust collector. Whenever bags are being filled, the cement dust that were flying around in the environment, there is a technology called dust collection. So we installed that, and later at least 70-80% dust was collected back. So that was an environmental friendly technology.
Right. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much, MTH. I think so we can say Wholesome is 70 to 80% responsible corporate who actually tries to make sure that environmentally friendly technologies are actually being used. Uh,
I can share one from my experience in Ruby. Is
yes.
one of the biggest drive that Ruby gave from 2015 is totally making the. I think this is a very general example, but we failed to mention it. Is 2000 from 2015 Ruby strictly maintained that Ruby is going to become a paperless company. So although we always overlook the overuse of paper because it's so much available everywhere, but we always forget the source of this paper. It's simply from the trees. So cutting down a consumption of 2000 people that are always with us and turning them into a digital process, this simple step can actually go a long way of cutting back the consumption of the paper. I think that is something also cost friendly and as well as environmentally friendly. So it also has planet and prosperity in it.
True, true, very true. So I think this is one of the nice examples that we should be following, right? We should go as paperless as possible, and with the technological advancement that we are in the digital era, I think that's pretty much possible. So instead of printing out and giving people handouts, just mail it to them, just mail them the soft copy, and that is way better than actually printing. So the last principle that falls under corruption, let me go there. Right. So anti-corruption, as the business should work against corruption in all its forms, including extortion and bribery. And I think this is one of the, I would say, process which we really don't understand. So we will have an example that we will keep on asking you to check whether that is corruption or not, so that your ideas become better. Uh, so let's get more details into corruption, extortion, and bribery. So it's the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. Uh, can anyone give me an example of corruption? Guys, corruption example? No one?
Should we talk about our health problem, like the regent and all those? I don't know. You know what I mean, right?
Right,
So
right. So regent
this
is
is
a
the
corruption where they fake
yeah
the
test report.
coronavirus test certificate. But that is a case-based corruption. Can we have an example which is very much seen in the society?
Can I?
Yeah, yeah. Please, Anju, ma'am.
Yeah. In this pandemic situation, like government gave money to the poor people, and that money has been half of the money is not been given to them, has been taken in between the medium the parties who are supposed to give that. So they are not given proper what they were supposed to be given, as they were supposed to be given 1 lakh each, and they have been given only 20 or 30,000.
Right. I think this is not just in pandemic situations. I think every time it happens. One of the biggest examples is in the South Asian corridor, is when people get tenders to make roads and highways, right? And which are supposed to sustain for 10 years, sustain for a month or two, and again tenders are provided for that. So that is a biggest misuse of fund. And also when funds goes to government officials, most of them make sure that at least 1% goes to the people, the rest 99% stays with them. So yeah, uh, misuse of funds as one of the biggest corruption example that we have in the scenario. The second one is extortion, or solicitation of bribes accompanied by threats, which means whenever a business starts working, uh, everyone, or as we call it, the dadas in Bangla, the dada of the area, or in India, what do we call them? Who comes and asks
Bhai,
for
bhai.
bhais, right? So there are so many bhais who comes up and extort money from you only because you have a business. So providing money to them in order to save your business is also falls under corruption. And lastly, bribery, which is an offer or receipt to, as you all know what bribery is. That is, you provide excess money in order to do something that is not legal, and that is a breach of trust, is bribery, and that is also something that we should avoid. So three things, very important: corruption, extortion, and bribery. Don't be a bhai. Don't pay to a bhai. Don't pay to a government official, and don't abuse the power entrusted in you. Uh, so case one, this is an individual case. So you yourself have to do it, and this is very. The case is as such that you are in a foreign country and you lost your documents and you need to get a temporary document with the local authority. Uh, the general comments in the community are that you must bribe the employee to get the service, which means if you pay for that service, you will get that service. Uh, so the question is very simple: do you bribe the employee? Yes or no? Uh, just write it in the chat box if you're paying for it. You lost your
No.
documents, you need a temporary document with the local authority. So just write yes or no and be honest about it. If you don't get the temporary document with the local authority, know that you cannot move, you cannot come back to your own country. There are so many issues. So know about it and then write. Right. So a lot of people said yes, I would. A lot of people said no. Anikapu wants to talk. Anikapu, please.
Hi, Bhaiya. I just wanted to say that obviously something like this actually happened to me. I was in UK and I lost my passport, and I was strangely I was offered bribe like from Bangladesh High Commission, not from anyway. So UK government didn't put any pressure on me, but the Bangladeshi government did. But anyway, no, I didn't bribe my way in, obviously. But if under extreme circumstances, of course, if I have no option, I would have to, like, because I know it because it happened to me, and it's very scary. You're living alone, and you don't really know a lot of people, and it's the worst thing that can happen to you, really. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Right. So for those who said no, or for those who said yes, this is what decides your principle. Uh, which means if you are okay to bribe, depending on any circumstances, it means your principles are somewhat twisted. Which means under circumstances, your principles can be bent, and that is not a very. I know the world is not sweet and the world is not bad. The world is pretty cruel for everyone, but still your principle has to stay intact. I would share one of my examples as I had to get my passport in order to go to a debate tournament that was happening in Europe. I was supposed to go to Amsterdam, and so my passport had to got out earlier, right? And that situation right before army took in Bangladesh passport. If you paid for it, if you had pay for your passports and everything, you get it earlier, or either you have to wait for at least 22 days minimum to a maximum of 2 months. Now I had to get my passport in 22 days, right? So I did not pay for it. I went through the normal process. It took a long time, and at the end of the day, I could not go to Amsterdam. I missed the tournament because my passport was not delivered at the stated time. I got my passport probably after 2 months, and I had to miss that tournament, something that was really looking forward to represent Bangladesh in a global platform and make myself proud. But still, I did not pay bribe to any employee service. Now, it did not happen to me in a foreign country, so I could not say what I would do if I was in a foreign country. But till date, as long as my age is almost 30, for last 30 years, I haven't paid anywhere excess money. And if there were issues where I had to pay excess money, I simply avoided that. Even for that reason, I lost sales and my promotion at times because I did not pay bribe to particular places to promote my product, and obviously it hampered my job. But I never compromised with my principle, and I think that is one thing that I'm really, really proud of. So this is something that is very. You should make sure that your principle is as strong as possible, so that you never compromise with it. Uh, the next action, we don't have to do it in pairs. We can do it on our own. So discuss your action and write them on your paper. So that is one action that you will do after knowing this particular principle, right? And then we'll come back to you later. So just take a minute and write one action that you would do in terms of principle. Right. So since we know what our principle is, the next criteria, again, it would show that it has to done in teams, but you don't have to. It's also again individual. Uh, is two. So at the same document agency in the foreign land, you found out that the employee is not asking for money from customers, but they're accepting donations which will be deposited in a fund uh, that would give birthday presents to poor children in the community. So how many of you are going to provide donations while your work is being done? Well, please write in the chat box if you are going to provide donations. I got two, yes, for good cause. Yes, yes. Uh, from Lokesh, no, yes, not until it's officially declared. Did that many times, yes. But can I ensure it's actually being used? Right. Uh, so yeah, there are a lot of approaches to it, but it all mostly the answer would be yes, because you know it's going to a good cause and they're not forcing you to do it. And this is where I think your values comes into play, right? So your principle tells you cannot really pay bribe, but your values tells you that you want to help the society, you want to help the poor people, you want to bring smile to the poor children in the community. And that's why even though you would not pay a bribe to do it, uh, you would happily pay donations to make sure birthday presents are provided to the children of the community. So this is what is more important, that your principles and values are very intact. So make sure whenever you take a decision, whether they're agreeing with your principles and values or social values that you have, whether they're agreeing to it or not. And based on that, we actually take a decision. For me, we have a 15 minutes break, uh, but we'll take a 5 minutes break because we're doing a lot of thinking, right? And I think a 5 minutes break is fine. So after you take a 5 minutes break, have your water, food, or anything, or just sit there for 5 minutes, and then we'll get start in 5 minutes. It's 12:02 in my watch right now. We'll start exactly again at 12:07. Right. Guys, I'm back. It's 12:07. So the third module is about responsibility. So which means who is responsible for the implementation of CSR. I hope everyone is back. Uh, so who's responsible? Large corporations only? What do you think?
Everyone, bhaiya, I think.
Right. I think Sanjay is right. So large corporations, small businesses, organizations, individuals, everyone is responsible for the implementation of CSR. And this is very important for all of us that we do this, right? So the next one, it's a task that you have to do. So I know already you have renamed yourself to Planet, People, and Prosperity. Though I'll see few of you did not rename yourself, but I see more were in the group of people. So there are 30 people here, and I have divided you into 3 groups based on whatever you chose. So as a team, you will have 5 minutes to discuss the ideas for your P. So if you're people, if you're into the people room, do check the name of your room. If you're in the people room, make sure that you discuss ideas. It says at least 4 ideas. I don't need 4 ideas. Come up with a maximum of 2 idea or a minimum of 1 idea or 1 activity that you want to do. And also make sure you name that activity while you discuss it. Actually, no, avoid 2 activities. That come up with 1 idea, 1 activity that your company will do or will implement. And please, one person, select one person who will explain that particular idea to us. Make sure you also rename that idea. So for example, if I come up with the idea that my company will plant 1 crore trees across the country, the name of my idea will be trees. Okay, is everything clear, guys? Any questions? Great. So I'm sending you to your respective rooms. Please join.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
How are we? Hi, Shovana.
Hi, Ramsahida. কি খবর? How are you?
Alhamdulillah, po.
Like,
Yeah, a lot of people. That's good. Imtiaz Bhai is also here.
please continue. Yes. Okay.
Yes. So we need to decide like a 4. So our task is to decide. Oh, Mehdi Bhai, you are also here?
I'm just
We have
checking.
4 minutes.
I'm just checking.
Okay, we have 4 minutes left. People, decide. Let's discuss. Our task is to decide the idea on your chart. Came up with at least 4 ideas for activities or projects a company could implement.
Just one idea, Apu. Just one idea. Don't come up with 4 ideas. You won't be able to do that in 3 minutes. Just one idea.
Okay, one idea.
And that one idea, I think, will have to be people-centric since we are part of the people.
Yes, people. Yes, exactly.
Let's propose one by one then. So my proposal is skills development training.
I would say the same.
Okay. Anybody else have any other idea?
Awareness.
Awareness, good.
Marketing services.
Yes, and what about? I think like I like the awareness idea that will people to aware about that the environment and all these things they can change or do work in a different way so that it affect less.
Literacy reduction.
Sorry, can you repeat again, please?
Literacy. Ereduction.
Literacy.
Yes.
Literacy prediction.
Ereduction.
Illiteracy eradication, maybe. Huh?
Okay.
Creating employment opportunities.
Yes, that's another one. Good point. So which one we want to go with? We have one idea, and then we have to think about the company, how would that implement. Which one we should go for? How many will vote for skill development? How many people? We have only 2 minutes. Decide one of the topic, please, and we have to find an implementation plan.
I
Just select
think
one,
we
maybe.
should go for the last one. Hello.
Sanjita, you can select from your side, I think, one of the two.
No, everybody says it's an open thing. Everybody should say like which one you want to choose. Just by everybody.
1.5
You
minutes
want to say
left.
something?
Let's select the last one. Someone just said. The last one was like promote literacy. I forgot.
No, the employment.
Literacy reduction.
Create employment opportunities, right?
Yes, create an employment opportunities.
Excellent,
For
excellent.
that, we can give them the skill development training, and also in the companies, we can create the awareness on the people. So
yes,
what we
yeah,
want
we can
to,
link
we
all
can
of this.
including all.
Yeah,
Yes.
good idea.
That will do.
Creating employment
Excellent.
opportunities. Yeah.
Okay, we will do create employment opportunity. On this, we will have for that we will develop skill or do L&D, learning and development for the people, and then and create awareness of as well, right? So this will cover like all three of it.
Yes, Apu.
Good. Well done, team. We are a good team. Good teamwork. We finished before time. We have only like few seconds left, 5 seconds left. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. I also have 1 more minute, I think.
So who is proposing from our behalf, Sanjidapu? Is it you?
I can say yes. It's okay.
Oh, that's very sweet of
Do you want to do it?
No, it's fine. You can. You please proceed.
Carry on, Sanjida. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. How are you guys enjoying the training?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm a bit sick today, so I'm just listening. So that's but it's really good. Mediba is always good. Yes.
Yeah, he's a very good trainer. I like the way
Yeah.
he talks very slowly, and it's quite understandable to everyone.
Yeah, true.
I like that. Very good trainer. We're lucky.
Everyone should be back. Great. So who's the team speaker for team people?
It's me, Bhaiya.
Okay, Sanjida. Who's the team speaker for team planet? Who's the captain planet?
It's me.
Right. And who's the prosperity guru?
Sir, it's me.
Great. So let's hear it from team people. What's your one idea, and why do you think that particular idea is good? So just say the idea.
Okay,
Right.
the idea we all agreed is like we had a lot of options. We were thinking of a lot, and then we come up with one idea which we all like is to create employment opportunity for people, so that way we can also provide learning and development and skill development opportunities for the people, and also make them aware of the do awareness programs within it to actually make people aware of how can they do things better and more environment friendly ways.
I'm confused. How are you going to create employment for people? So what is your idea? Your idea is to provide them training, or provide them awareness, or provide them job, or all three?
All three of them, Bhaiya. Like creating employing opportunities, and then when there will be opportunities as an organization, if we have opportunities to work, then we can actually train those people as well to actually do those work. And when we're training, we can actually create awareness as well.
So till these people are trained, you won't hire people and hamper the profit of the company?
We are not thinking about profit and all these things. We are not talking about that at the moment. We were thinking of what is the best solution. Could be always like all rounded, thinking of this
Right, because this is also something that you need to take into consideration. For example,
Yes.
to provide training to individuals, it will take about a year or two. How will the company survive during that year? So let's say, for example, you hire people from outside and you train the local community. So when the local community is trained, do you throw the people, or do you fire all the people that you already hired and then just employ the people from the local community or not? So I think this particular idea that you shared is good, is thinking from the perspective of JCI, but you're not thinking from the perspective of a company where they also have to make sure there is profit and people are actually benefited from that profit as well. So efficiency of the company is important while not hampering the people in the society. So I think you need to think more on how you can shape that up, and I will give you again at some point in the training a few more time so that you can shape this idea. But we got the idea. It's more about skill development of people. So let's move to the next team, which is Planet. So yeah, Team Planet. Captain Planet, please go on.
Yes, thank you. So we just decided the idea name is uh, Grow and Earn. So in this, we are going to just uh, uh, give people the saplings of the plants which produce fruits, vegetables, and which generate oxygen, like snake plants and all that. And with that one plant, we can make many plants altogether. You don't need one seed with that. If you just take out that one leaf of plant and plant it, it again grows again. So from one we can make many. And in the long run and in short run, with these vegetables and with this fruits, they can just sell them and they can make money for themselves. That is,
So you will give
this will help in
fruits and
pollution
vegetable
also.
trees to people.
Yeah.
What if there and who will monitor this? You, that they're planting it.
Yes, the CSR committee of that company will monitor that.
Okay, interesting idea. But let's say, for example, there are 100 people in the community, so you will give only 100 trees.
So such trees which can grow, like, from one they can make four or five, so they can give it to others also in their community in short term of period, like one after 1 or 2 months they can make more plants from that one plant and they can give it to others also.
But isn't it also dependent on the will of the people whether they really want to plant vegetables and fruits or not? Right?
I think the way now the prices are hiking up, everyone is interested in doing that. So home gardening is in.
Fine. So 500 trees to the local community, cost each tree costing about roughly 100 taka. That's 50,000 taka spent. Not
Yes.
bad. Not
Yes.
bad. Great. But I would want a more solid idea. Like, for example, if people do not really want to do it, from a company perspective, what is your plan? So, in order to save the planet. So, we will give you time later again in this training while you can discuss more on this particular idea. So, let's move to prosperity team.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're.
Uh, so we came from the prosperity thing, we come the topic regarding waste recycling. We want to recycle the waste. So first of all, we have to create awareness to the people. Uh, First part is to create awareness to the people so that the people will understood and the change begins. So things will go good. And second thing is it will create employment opportunities for the people. Uh, and finally, if we recycle the things, we can save money when we recycle our waste. So this type of projects we want to do for coming prosperity to the people. So not audible.
So it sounds interesting that you want to recycle and you want to make money out of it, but you do know that recycling cost is way too high, and as of yet, no recycling plant has seen profit so far. So as a company, you function as a company, your regular works will be there. Then again, you plan to have a separate recycling plan to recycle all these things. Will it ensure profit, and or will it ensure the sustainability of your company? Because you need to understand that in order to save the society, you cannot go bankrupt, right? Because no company would think like that. So I think it will come up with more detailed idea of how you can do that, and we will definitely give you time. So there are three ideas that we received are skill development, tree plantation, and recycling waste. And somehow, if you look into it, all these three ideas, for example, the skill development one, where you develop people and then they help in the economy, right? So it's somewhat related to both people and prosperity at the end. Again, when we look into tree plantation, you give it to people so that people can sell the fruits and vegetables so they can earn. So people are being developed in order to, or people have to be trained in order to plant those trees, to take care of those trees. So people development, plantation helping the planet, and lastly when they're selling it, it's actually economic prosperity, right? So all three are connected. And then again, when we look into waste management, it's something where planet is saved, and again economic prosperity possibilities are there, right? So ultimately, when we look all into all the solutions, you would see that you are not serving one particular stakeholder. You're not serving only the planet, or only the people, or only the prosperity. You are somehow interconnected, right? And that is also something that we see as we move into the slide. uh, so how does the CSR work? So before we move on to the interconnection, so it involves voluntary, one is voluntary initiatives, and the second one is beyond compliance. Obviously there are laws that ensures that you do not do certain things, but you also have to look to your principles that goes beyond those beyond those compliances and work for it. It involves the entire business process, which means it cannot be philanthropic, or it cannot be charitable. Tree plantation, if is just planting trees and they're not looking into what is happening with those trees, that is a philanthropic approach. Skill development, just providing training and they're not caring about their jobs, is again a charitable or philanthropic work. So what I really loved about the ideas that came from you is none of these are philanthropic or charitable ideas. So which means you're thinking from a business perspective, and that is really, really good. And lastly, you have to have a close understanding and involvement of the stakeholders. So when you gave those ideas, I understood that there is a good understanding of the stakeholders, but somewhere down the line, you forgot there are shareholders who would want profit at the end of the day. So those stakeholders will also have to come into the CSR activity. So CSR is not only about giving to the society, but also making sure how it's sustainable at the end of the day. Uh, Moving on, so understanding and awareness of CSR, is how the implementation process work. So understand what are your CSR goals, develop your plan, and this is what we will do when I give you time again. Communicate the CSR plan to stakeholders, implement your CSR plan, and follow up and evaluation. This is where you check for the sustainability. So responsibility to stakeholders instead of shareholders. I think we already discussed about it, that it should not be only profit motiveness, but also how the society can benefit from it. Uh, and we all know who the stakeholders are, anyone who's influenced directly or indirectly by the actions of the company. So the three P's that we already discussed, protecting environment, prosperity, people, they're all interconnected, which means the solutions that we got are always interconnected. So whatever CSR that you do, make sure that it's targeting the entire business plan. It's helping all three of these P's, because these are something that are the stakeholders of your company. So we move to last module, which is commitment, and this module is very important. This module starts with a interesting story, right? We all know this frog story, which means if you put a frog in boiling water, it automatically jumps and senses the danger, jumps out of it. But if you put the frog in water at room temperature, it is comfortable. If you gradually bring the temperature up, the frog will not notice, right? And this is what we really saw, that until it is too late and the frog dies in the boiling water. Did we have an example discussing this? If you remember, the biggest example that we discussed about this frog problem is when we discussed about our principle, right? Whether we will pay the bribe or not. And some of us actually agreed, right? That, yeah, I will pay the bribe. Now, how did we agree to that, right? We never thought that it's actually conflicting with our principles. Is because slowly what happened is we got accustomed to the idea of paying bribes. It has been there for a quite period of time. Primarily, we did not pay bribes, then we started paying bribes, and slowly it became more of a commonality, right? Is there anyone here from Singapore, or anyone here from Philippines? Uh, all right. So if no one here, in Singapore, speed money is actually legal. Uh, now, why is that? Speed money, as we all know, it's bribe, but it's actually legal in the process of the law, because you pay a certain amount of money to speed up your work, and it's also somewhat legal in Philippines. If you do go, though they do not pay money, they pay a hefty amount of gifts to the people who work there. So somehow this thing got normalized. This weird thing of paying bribe that has a problem with our principles somehow got normalized, because we were the frogs who were letting the boiling water slowly kill our principles. But this can work in reverse, right? Because that's the entire idea, that okay, if a frog can die because of negative activities, it can also get saved, because if we normalize positive activities to begin with, right? And that's the entire concept, that though we do not allow any system to drastic changes, we can always make sure that it is not a drastic change. It is a slow process. So instead of slow poisoning, we can slow sweeten the entire cause, right? I don't know anything that's against the word poisoning. So let's say slow sweetening. So how do we do that? We make them your own principles. So for example, if your company is okay for paying bribes, uh, I know Akio is here, who works in a large telecom called Robi. Uh, does Robi pay bribes? Akio, be honest. All right, he just left listening to the question, probably not wanting to answer. Altamis Nabil Bhai is here, who's also from Robi. So Nabil Bhai, does Robi pay bribes? Nabil Bhai,
Basically, I'm not exactly from, basically belongs from a tribe. Hello?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So basically, this is not the right platform to comment on there, but as you can see that there is some party involved, like if you consider the telecom industry, there is a party called BTRC, and basically to sort out many things to move on to roll out the business. There is a need to look into that matter. So, but I can say yes, there is a mix and match, and there is a possibility of doing that. Right now, this is not the correct platform to comment. It's few particular scopes
Understandable,
to
understandable. I
think about
completely
that.
understand that. Right. So, for example, particular corporates do pay bribes, but in a very different manner. However, these bribes go through individuals. For example, if you want to buy something, it has to, let's say, if you're paying bribe, it has to go through the probably if it's to deal with BTCL in Robi, it has to go through their legal procedures, right? Or the people working in legal aids. So if the people in the legal aids makes it their own principle that they would not be paying bribes, and they say, right, you can sack me or you can fire me, still I would not do anything as heinous a crime that you want me to do. I think that is how you can actually make sure that it's a successful factor in your own corporate house. The next one is willingness and ability to learn and adapt, right? So you know some things are not right, and this is what we do in our own company because we work with government projects a lot as a Swedish firm. And you know, in government projects, it's a must that you have to pay bribes, or it's a must that you have to do a lot of other things the government wants you to do. However, we are taught to bypass that. So there are a lot of ways you can bypass those particular criterias, uh, and you just have to the will to learn how and adapt to those bypassing mechanisms. Communicate and promote principles. So see, when I'm talking about promoting principles, this particular training is something that promotes principle. Or even when you go outside, just talk about how you don't want to do things against your principle. Promote principles to your peers, to your colleagues, to your classmates, to everyone around. And I think that's how you make sure that slowly people understand that principles or values are very important and integral part of your life, uh, and dedicate it to your practical action. So not just promote those principles, but also practically do them, making sure that these actions are something that people look forward to. So when you say that I don't want to lie in any meeting, so for example, people who work in sales and marketing, they have to lie a lot in order to sell their products. We call it marketing gimmick, but to be very honest, it's blatant lies that we say, right? So we say we won't be telling lies, and we practice it when we go for any sales or marketing. If they ask that are there any problems in the car that you're selling, you say there are problems. These are the problems, but obviously the benefits of the car outweighs the harms that are there, and that's how you promote or make practical action. So not compromising with your principles, but still becoming a better marketeer at the end of the day. And people think that is good. Because if you do know, out of all the policies, business policies that there are, uh, which is the biggest, best, or the best business policy? Can anyone tell me what is the best business policy there is? No one? You can write on the chat or unmute yourself and tell me. Right. If none, as it's saying, honesty is the best policy. So be honest from your business and from yourself as well. So those are the key success factors, right? That honesty, transparency, whatever you try to call it, is the best business policy there is. And lastly, lead by example and practice those principles. So if you are a line manager and people working under you, you lead by example and make sure that people follow your examples. That is, you're practicing principles, and people see that as a positive approach. So case three, we don't have to do it as teams because we already did the previous two cases as individuals. Case three is at the document agency, the employee tells you that the requests from people who donate for the children fund are placed in front of everyone else, in front of the people in line for many hours. So you went there, you saw that there is a donation box, and a lot of you agreed that you will pay the donation because based on your values. But then again, it says that if you pay the donation, your work will be done earlier. Something that we called speed money a few moments back. Your work will be done earlier, and if you pay the donation, what will you do? Will you pay the donation? Will you think that your donation is morally correct? Right. So none of you think that it is morally correct. It's simple. The reason we don't think it's morally correct, it's because there is a condition attached to that donation. So any donation that has a condition attached to it means it's bribe, or it's not transparent, or it's corrupted. So that's where comes the circumstances, right? So you have your principle intact, you have your values intact, and they, based on circumstances, you have to find out whether those collides with your principles or values or not. And that brings to the case four, which is this one. That means you have an important business meeting in another city, you need the documents to travel. uh, if you wait for the normal delivery time, you will lose a large amount of money. The employment says it can be done first, but only if you pay extra money, right? So if you don't go to the meeting, let's say you lose $1 million, and in order to get the documents done, you have to pay $100. What will you do? Will you pay $100 to save $1 million? I just got two answers, three answers. No, no, no. Right. So people who are answering no, if you're really answering it from your heart, hats off, because this is something that takes a lot of courage to do. Obviously a lot of courage to tell, but a lot of courage to do. Because if your company is going to lose a huge amount of money, and at that point there is a comparison that goes on, normally people think it's $100 versus $1 million, and I will obviously not cause a $1 million loss to my company. Either it's my own company, it's someone else's. That is something. It's very, very tough, right? So this is where the question of needs comes in, right? So how strong your values or principles comes in, and even in circumstances, you actually try to have those intact. When needs comes in, right? When it's the cost of needs, normally we cannot hold our value. And a big example of that is people buying, I would say, illegal organs from black market in order to save their family. So as you all know, illegal organs is something where which is very, very illegal, right? Or where a lot of people die in order for this to happen. But let's say, for example, your child, your son or your daughter or your father or your mother requires a lungs, and it's not available, and you have to wait for, I don't know, after 100 people, because there is a huge amount of less number of people donate organs, and you have to wait for a long period of time to get your mother or father that lungs that they require. So it's a need to save your family member. Will you buy an organ from the black market in the current status quo? What do you think? Will you go to the black market to save your family? see, your principles automatically change when needs comes in front of you, right? And these needs, when it's very much important. You really don't care about your principles, but social responsibility tells you that even though your needs are more important, you cannot do that, because you need to understand, in order to save your family, someone else had to be killed to get that lungs, right? So when you create demand for illegal organs in the black market, in order to meet the demands, someone else is killed to make sure that the supply is there, right? That's how illegal organs go there. Not necessarily people who donate their organs goes into the illegal organ market, right? It's forced organs taken from people, right? Or it's people who are made senseless and their kidneys are taken off, right, by doctors and all that. So the moment you say yes to this particular idea, that's the moment you agree that it's okay to kill someone in order to save your family. Even though your family says, even then, you're agreeing or you're an accomplice to murder, right? So you need to understand that if you're not holding on to your principles and if you're acting on your needs, you're really not the right sort of human being that you always thought you were. So always, if you're taking a decision and there is a question that's coming against principles versus needs, uh, always understand that principles are the one that you should prioritize. I understand needs are important, but in order to meet your needs, a lot of harm will be done to the society, and whether you can live with that guilt or not, it's totally up to you. So moving on, adapting the principles and acting responsibility will not be easy. We already saw with the 4 cases, right? It's very tough to live up to your principles, to live up to the values that you have inside you. But it is possible if the society acts on it, right? So if the entire society believes in the principles, if the entire world believes in the principles and act responsibly, which means anyone who does not goes for breach of power, or any particular individual who does work as stated without taking any bribe, it's become easier for you to hold on to your principles. Which means when everyone has their principles intact, it's easier for everyone to act as a responsible individual. And it starts from one person, right? That is, you need to act responsibly. So if you are acting responsibly, uh, then probably others will start acting responsibly as well. So if you do your work right and people learn from you, that's where we learn. Lead by example, we can adopt those principles. So actions for the organization, right? So we discussed one idea from everyone, right? That is, we had Team Prosperity, Team People, and Team Planet discussed one idea. So you get 5 more minutes to discuss that particular idea again. So I'm sending you to your rooms again. Uh, Same team, all right? So discuss that idea for 5 more minutes, and then we will listen a more detailed version where principles are intact, where values are intact, circumstances and needs are also taken care of, and that's when your actions seems more sustainable.
Hello,
Yes.
we all here.
Yes.
Hello
Let's
again.
start. I think last time we actually didn't come up with a very good idea. So I think, but we were in the right track, but we have to like form the full idea.
Yes.
Yeah, because we didn't focus on a specific group. That's the problem, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So let's focus on let's have a concrete idea like how we are gonna do it and what is it like. So we say that creating employment opportunity. So how we are gonna create employment opportunity? How it's gonna work?
Okay, I think we should focus on a group first. Then the same idea, but just one group. Like someone in the chat box said transgender.
Okay. We can say to like transgender community or like the community who are like very deprived, like we worked on with the sex workers few like last month actually. So those are like communities we can work on. And we can think of like how can we, because this community is very is there any idea you can share, like the sex workers community? If you think about them, how can we give them a new skill or to create opportunity, employment opportunity for them?
Hello.
Hi, Shubhana.
Yeah, creating employment opportunities. The sustainable solution can be for creating employment opportunities for transgender and sex workers. Number one.
Yes.
Number two, for the disabled or people who are disabled. These two can be, the solution action plan for creating employment opportunities.
Good. Okay. So okay, this is our group then. Which group one you want to proceed with? All three of them?
No, I think we should focus on one.
Yeah, I think
we
should focus on one.
Yeah.
Let's focus on one and let's go to the how part, because the trainer was asking how we will do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
need a specific solution. That's why I was
Okay,
saying
just
that,
go with transgender or like sex worker, because both will be have the same thing, similar problem. So how can we create opportunity for them?
Okay.
So because they are already in a profession, say sex workers, that they are already in a profession where they earn some living. So we don't really have to give them a living. What we can do is to give them opportunity to, like a training or something to skill develop, which will be like, suppose we can train them on sewing or like become seamstress or something like that. What do you guys think?
Yes, very right. Some skill, some life skill, so that they can have an alternative income generating activity.
Yeah. So if we are like a garments company, while they are actually on that, we can provide a training session on this. Suppose I have a garments, okay, and I can give them training without any salary, because they have their daily income anyway, and we can tell them, okay, after your day, so in the evening you have an evening session of training.
Or we can provide education facility for their children, as you know.
Yeah, but
kind of
yes. What do you guys think?
kind of social disability.
What I want to see is like to take these people out of those miserable life and then have their alternative profession.
Yeah.
So
yes, taking sewing classes after day in the evening for free is a good option, and we can communicate with some garments who will get them employed if they are skilled up to a certain level.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking. So suppose like we might focus on a specific skill that those garments will be needing, or the work will be like knitwear industry will need this type of work, so we can provide specific training on that one.
Excellent. Yes, very right.
Okay.
Create employment opportunity for them and to move on from. Yeah. Shobana, this time you should be carrying it, okay? You carry on the idea. Or anybody else.
Today. I'm sick today, as I told you. I'm not able to speak today.
Okay. What about everybody else? No, somebody else want to volunteer and be the leader?
Apu, you should do it. Okay. You are good at explanation.
Oh no, please. I'm not very good.
You can.
Right. So we had a discussion, right? Team people, team prosperity,
Yes.
and team planet. So I want a separate person to represent team people now, right? Because I had so separate person to represent team people, separate person to represent team planet, and a separate person to represent team prosperity. So who's from team people?
We didn't like decide. It was automatically came to me again, but I
Yeah,
think somebody else in my team can talk, and we all have the same idea. So if they can,
yeah.
somebody else please
So
volunteer.
someone else from team people take the lead. If you're taking the lead, you need to do the training effective leadership.
Dear trainer, okay, if I can speak from.
Anyway, I would like to contradict to this because a good leader would empower someone else to take the leadership. So someone who is probably not taking the lead is probably trying to empower someone else, because from team planet, I can vouch for our leader. She was actually saying that she doesn't want to be leader. She was empowering someone else. I think that's Anju Saini. She was asking someone else to be the leader. So that is an example of effective leadership.
Very good, very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you did the training. Good. Thank you. Good.
Yes, I do as well offer. Anybody wants to lead, but nobody seems to be interested.
I think Imtiaz Bhai took the lead. So Imtiaz Bhai, please go on.
Thank you, Mehdi. So in our team, last time we said that we will generate income generating activities. So we will focus on training, and to narrow it down, we will focus only on the sex workers, because recently we have done a project there. So we will provide them training classes after daylight in the evening, so that they will be trained in a particular skill. Before that, we will contact with several garments which skill they need, and in up to which level. So we will try to give them skills which are required by those garments, and at least 50 to 100 people we will train, and we will make sure that they get alternate income generating activities so that they can come out of this trade. Thank you.
Right. So a few questions I think should be answered by other team members apart from Sandeep and Imtiaz Bhai.
You are great,
Number one.
yes.
Number one is are the trainings focused on prostitution, or should this training be focused on some other employments? Because if you're doing that, you're indirectly telling the sex workers that prostitution is an illegal and immoral act. So as a corporation, should you take that stance or not? That's one question. The second question is, once provided training, how are you going to, or whatever training you're going to provide, how are you going to make sure that this training is coming to a more sustainable impact in their life? That is, they are going to use this training for something else. So, yeah. Can anyone from people answer? There is Shobhana Apu who was in people. Shobhana Apu is here.
I'm here, Bhaiya.
Yeah. So
I'm a
Apu,
bit sick
please
today.
answer
That's
to
why
my first
throughout the
question.
training I wasn't active, but I was listening. I'm a bit sick today. That's why, okay, your first question was like, are we going to convey the message that they're actually the sex workers actually doing the illegal things or not? Was it the question?
Yeah, are they doing an immoral act or not? Is that the promotion from the corporation is going?
No, no, no,
So
not
the
really.
training you will provide is in prostitution, how to be more,
We are
how to have
actually
more safe
focusing.
sex and all that, right?
Yeah, actually, I proposed this idea in the first, case study, group study, creating employment opportunity. Then another team member came up with the other idea, like for transgender and the sex workers. So actually, therefore, so for the solution, we came up that we have to, you know. Work with the we have to train the we have to provide the skill development training to the sex workers and transgenders, so that they can they have other income generated activities. So because this is for example, this is a pandemic situation right now, so sex workers are jobless. So to be honest, and if we would provide the skill development training to them, they would use those skills to get employed otherwise. So yeah, so that's the, I think I answered the first one. What do you think, Bhaiya?
Right. I think I would use an example of how one of the corporations actually dealt with sex workers. We all know this brand called Durex, right?
Yeah.
Great. So what Durex did in Thailand during this pandemic situation, and before that, is they provided education and training on safe sex. That is the uses of condoms and other important ways where human rights are maintained. The next training that was provided in order to support during pandemic situations, or situations where people normally do not visit prostitution centers or brothels, is providing them trainings on how to have phone chats or sex chats to begin with, right? So that even in those situations, the skill that they already acquired of providing sex work can also be maintained. So I think instead of just shunning them down and telling that the life skill that they already had for a particular period of time,
Yeah.
the work that a corporation should do is make sure or understand, because we already discussed about this when we are talking about a
Isn't
community,
this
we need to
harmful
do a
for the
needs analysis of
business
the
of
community.
Durex? Mehdi bhai?
Yeah.
Isn't this harmful for the business of Durex if they convert everything over
Not
online?
necessarily, not necessarily, because it's only for pandemic situation. And after that, since Durex is doing something really productive, people gain more trust. So it's the brand promotion that is happening here, right? So people's trust on the brand of ensuring service to the society even during these times is something that is taken care of, right? So the thing that we corporations often forget is when they want to help a community, they need to do a needs analysis of the community. So, for example, if people from India here, you all know the Kodakamu event, right? Something that Unilever did. They did not help people, and there was a mercury spill that caused a lot of problem for the people over there, especially people whose life was dependent on fishing, right? And a lot of the fish died, hampering their uh, what would say livelihood, right? So Unilever never took into consideration of that particular scenario, that people or wherever they are setting up their factory, how the livelihood of the people around that factory is being built, and what they could do as a responsible corporate in order to cater to that particular idea. So whenever you plan anything about that locality or about people, always make sure that you do a needs analysis, that how these people have been surviving for long. Can those characteristics be made much better, so that whatever they have learned, those and newer ideas make their life much better and make their livelihood much easier to follow through. So I think this is how people service should go. So let's move to Planet, Team Planet.
Okay, thank you, Bhaiya. Bye.
Thank you, Shogunapo. Team Planet.
Yes, Bhaiya. Team Planet, there were few people. Appa was there. Basically, our theme was grow and earn. Last time we talked about it, and this time we discussed that we create awareness, because last time we talked that there might be some people who don't want to grow trees. So this time we discussed that we can create awareness
and basically we can ask them like what kind of trees they want to plant, or if they prefer a certain area where they want to grow different types of tree, or they want to grow something else, because this is something good that will happen. So we'll kind of try and grow their skills, and we'll give them gardening training, and we'll try and make it more sustainable for them. And obviously we can raise more awareness regarding that they'll have personal well-being, like we discuss these things.
All right. So it's more of a focus where you provide training for gardening so that people actually take into account of the planet. But as a corporation, because there is a question, was there any focus to reduce the carbon footprint in your own industry? Like, for example, using machineries that are more environmentally safe, because you go and teach gardening to people,
Right.
and they, let's say, plant 500 trees, right?
Right.
Whereas on every day, the amount of pollution that comes from an industry requires about 50 million trees to actually take that pollution away. So wouldn't it be more, I don't know, mean more better to have an industry or have a factory that works focusing on more environmentally technological aspect, rather than, for example, going paperless, something that was suggested by AQ at the very beginning, right? So if you go paperless in your company, wouldn't that be more creating more sustainable impact at a lower cost, comparing to the fact that you need to train 100 or 500 people on gardening? What do you think?
Actually, we weren't thinking of in such large context. We were thinking of empowering a certain area, like a certain locality, like maybe there are unemployed people in a certain local area. So we if we empower them and raise awareness, then we move on to another area. Like we were thinking in that way. Like we weren't thinking in such large corporation context, more like small companies. But what you say has a point. Um, um, I frankly, I am out of ideas.
Can I take this
Yeah,
question
yeah,
from
please,
you?
Ekyo.
Okay.
Please.
First of all, the suggestion of the group was that we are going to build on our previous idea. So that's what we did. Secondly, thinking about what you are saying, that if any company or any corporation wants to go that big in terms of impact, there has to be, in realistic sense, there has to be some kind of monetary value involved, because the world runs in money. So if there is no monetary incentive involved, it is simply not uh, motivating enough for any corporation to move in that direction. And in this current context of this world, anywhere you go, sustainable production or any kind of environmental production comes with a cost. This is why most of the CEOs take the short way to for efficiency, and the cost is always is to the nature. So the idea, the gist of our idea is that what I think we failed to convey, that 7 billion people are on this planet. They are the heart of this planet. So we are offering them two things. One is the skills to plant trees, know trees, and their values. So one point was mentioned in the idea as well, that we are going to aware the people about the importance of the trees as well. And another part was that how we will show them how to earn from this skill. So there are two aspects of this. Not only you are knowing the benefits of this, and we are also incorporating the monetary value in it. So if you want to think in a larger scale, why not why 100 people, why 200 people? Think about 7 billion people. If you can impact 7 billion people doing planting in their home, in their balconies, that is going to have a large impact. No, doesn't have to be industry, doesn't have to be 10 heavy machineries. Think about 7 billion people. So the idea has potential. It's just you have to think it big.
Right. I agree with AQ. Just think it big. but the overall concept of taking responsible actions, that even if you think small, the sustainable impact of the small has to be large, right? So impact has to be large instead of the action being large. So one of the example that I share most of the times is UK company, right? And they were actually wanted to be very much, as I would say, environmental friendly, and they didn't know how to do it, and then a solution was provided by a 11-year-old child, right? So what the child provided is the company was using Gotham as a font for all their documents. So whenever they print any documents or any official documents that was being printed, it was printed with the font Gotham. The suggestion provided by the 11-year-old was to change the font from Gotham to Arial Narrow, right? So all the official documents are now to be printed in Arial Narrow. So this not only saved ink, almost I think 70% of ink was saved, one, and paper was reduced by 90%. Uh, just by changing a font. So it's not installing a new machine or anything. It's just changing a particular font, and that made that particular company way more environmentally green than they already were. So I think smaller ideas, probably very small actions that you can see, uh, very small actions in a company, as every individual of that company will not litter, that is installing or making sure there is litter box in every floor of that particular company will also make that company much greener uh, compared to anything else. Or not just, let's say, in the company, but in the locality they live. For example, in Dhaka, what I saw being done by one of the corporations in Mohammadpur is they made sure that all the roads in that particular area has one litter box, right, that is tied to one tree, which means people do not litter on the road anymore. They throw their waste into that dustbin. Very small action, but it did have a very large impact, right? The road stayed clean, everything stayed better. So I think that's how, whenever as a corporation you think, obviously you have to think of profit, because providing training to 7 million people may sound very big idea, but is not plausible when we think of a corporation doing it, because hey, I don't want to use all the profit money from my shareholders account to train people. That is so unnecessary. Sounds like a realistic approach that the government should take, not a corporation to begin with, right? So I think that's how corporations should come forward, that whenever you take an action, maybe smaller, but it should have a larger impact on saving the planet. So let's move to Team Prosperity now, and your idea, please.
Thank you, Josh. This is Saravanan again. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you're audible. Is there a different team member, or are you the same person?
Yeah, I'm the same person.
Oh, different team member has to be there.
Sure.
So from Team Prosperity, there were a lot of people, if I remember. So anyone? Ronnie bhai, you were in Team Prosperity. How about you explain to us? Ronnie bhai, you're here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah. So can you
Anyway, I'm
explain
here.
your action as a Team Prosperity? What was your action that you're planning to take?
Brother, I am facing a network challenge and I'm facing a problem because I'm in the crowd place now. So can you give me a few minutes to separate myself?
Yeah, sure. I also see Senator Rakesh was in Team Prosperity. Senator Rakesh, can you please tell us the idea? And then Ronnie bhai can add to it later. Senator Rakesh, I think you need to unmute yourself. Are you talking? things that happen in a Zoom meeting, right? So yeah, I think we can go back to the original leader. uh, please sir, say what you had to say.
Thank you, sir. For any CSR project, before we plan, we have to see the before. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you're audible.
For any CSR project, first of all, we have to go back to the first of all need analysis to be done. What is necessary for the community for getting a good project, for doing a good project, and we have to find who is the actual beneficiary from this project. After getting there, for getting proper impact, CSR project will not should not done by the company to the people. We have to add many stakeholders like NGOs, municipal corporations, so that we will get a good impact. So here, what the topic we choose is recycle our waste, right? Recycling waste is our topic. So here we are able to provide or educate skilled labor and communicate and principle waste recycling principle to the society or to the people. And finally, they have to dedicate to the principal action. We have to work for the principal action. What is our plan? What we are going to do? All the things we should put in front of people. We have to create awareness to the people, and we have to take the project.
Right. Sounds great. I think I would share an example of such a project. I have been to Singapore once, and I saw it there, and even in Malaysia. So what a company did is they started a new shop of their own, where all their products that were thrown away, those products were recycled to give new approaches, right? So bottles were used to make baskets. uh, I don't know, sometimes plastic were made to make ornaments, and they were selling it in particular places. So I felt that was probably a very good approach of waste management, and then again recycling it to later be used by individuals. And it was a very good approach. So I think even during recycling, what they thought was of economic prosperity, right? And what they thought of making profit, what they thought of was making money out of it, and still making sure that ultimately it's not a lost project to begin with. So really, it's a nice approach by Prosperity team, and I think all the teams, all the members taking actively participate requires a salute for taking actions, right? Even though your principles. So let's get back to the training, to the slides. Right. So we already did this. So the need for action is wise and timely decisions to ensure global development, and they cannot be addressed by one institution or one government. And this is what we already learned in JCI impact training. So whatever project you take, you have to make sure that all the stakeholders are a part of it, and all the active citizens and organizations should be involved in it. The question that always starts, right? We have a project, we have an idea, we know exactly what to do, but where do we actually start? Right? This is a question that we always keep on asking ourselves. Even though we have amazing ideas, we exactly don't know where to start. So before I answer this question, let's have a review of what we did. We did know that. Do we know the definition of CR? Just write in the chat box if your answer is yes. We already studied it, right? We know the CSR principles, how to do it. We know the 3 P's of CR, which are planet, people, and prosperity. We know the global compacts principles. So 2 for human rights, 4 for labor standards, 3 for environment, and 1 for anti-corruption. We already studied it. We know how the CSR works, which means it has to be a voluntary initiative. We know who are the stakeholders, which means anyone directly or indirectly influenced by the company. we know the implementation process. We did it on our own hand, and we did a follow-up of that as well. And from the boiling frog, we came to know that people react to dramatic changes immediately. So change has to be take place gradually, and then anyone will notice. So key success factors to adapt principles is making sure that they're your own principles, you're willing, and if you're willing to learn about it, you're communicating your problems, and you're dedicated about it. And from case studies, we learn that principles and acting responsibility is not really that easy. You have to really work hard in order to do it. So until the majority becomes a part of the chain, you won't be able to act responsibility. So in order to do that, you have to be the responsible one at first. So it does not matter where you start if you know what to do and you are committed to your action. So you have to take action in a local organization, action at your work, action with your community at friend, action at home, and that's how you become an active citizens who make a difference. So this is a task that you have to do. The task is very simple. Take a piece of white paper with in front of you and write one action that you will commit yourself for the next 3 months. It says 30 days, but I'm increasing it because we talked a lot about it on it. So take 2 minutes, just write in a piece of paper one action that you will commit for the next 3 months, one action that will bring positive change. So it's a personal commitment. Everyone has a piece of paper with you?
Yes.
Great. So just write in it one action. And then keep it to yourself. We will need it after a while. Are we done? Did we write one action? Others, I saw yes from only 2 people. Great. Since we are done, whenever we are in this world, we always need to remember one very important thing. And I know it because as a father, I always feel it this way. That is, we did not inherit the earth from our parents, right? It's not that our parents left the earth and we inherited it, right? We are actually borrowing it from our children. So whatever we do, we have to think that we have to give it back to our children, and it's important that we give it back in a much better place than it already is, right? And if we have that thought process that once we leave, our children are going to be in this world and we have to make it a better place for them, if we do that, we will do way better with this particular world. And obviously they took it from their children as well. So everyone, you had a commitment that you made, so I would like to every one of you to uh, start your video and just put the commitment like this. Just start your video, everyone. I'd really love to see what your commitment is. Wait till everyone opens their video. Apu, Anika Apu, please open up your video. Ronnie Bhaiya, JC Lokesha. All right. If someone is in Musk from prayer, no need. But everyone who wrote it, please, what is the one action that you will take? Ekyo, where are you? I can't see you. You're the host, LP. You have to be visible. Right. Uh, I would request Ekyo to take a snapshot of these actions. We will check for these actions after 3 months with everyone. I have everyone's email ID now, so I will check for these actions whether they have actually stayed committed to this particular action or not. So Ekyo, can you please take a snapshot of everyone's action
But everyone
and
did not
something that
mention
they
what
promised?
action they want to do. They only mentioned that they have written down.
No. Everyone is putting their action in front of the
Oh,
camera.
right, right.
You can see that.
I think you have to do it because I'm on my phone. I cannot see the.
All right, just fine. I'm taking the snapshot. I did. Thank you, guys. If you want, you can keep your video on.
Asked me to put the snapshot because I was I'm a planet on planet team, and my personal whole goal was to somehow reduce the rate of new births so we can control the population because human beings are the biggest parasite of this world, in my opinion. So,
Yeah,
so I was
especially when it comes from someone sitting at a pretty big place having food to eat and
no,
not caring about.
exactly. So human anything that is excess becomes less valuable. So if human population was 60,000, every life would have been very important. Exactly why? Because we have 7 billion people. That's why people are treated like organ harvesting organisms. That's why you can think of taking someone else's kidney and placing it to someone else who is probably, in your opinion, more important to the society. Just because you are probably a president doesn't make you more valuable to the society. Every life is same. So
I think
for me,
that is very true, Ekyo. And as said by some of the amazing people around the world, they said that overpopulation is really not the problem right now. The problem is equal distribution, which means resources for 7 billion people are already there. The problem is equal distribution never happens. And you can see the 80-20 Pareto analysis, that is 80% of the world's resources are with 20% of the people, while only 20% of the resources are with 80% of the people, which means if we come up and say overpopulation is a problem, we also need to look into exactly why overpopulation is a problem. Is it because we tell it because people are not getting food, people are being exploited, and who are doing that? If we go into that deep discussion, I think we will be called communists to begin with, right? So let's not go there and take this training forward. So we all got your personal commitment, and that's how we make a difference. So there's a story that's to share. How do you make a difference? So a man was walking and saw a boy throwing starfish back to the ocean, and the man asked why he was doing that, right? So the boy said, "Don't you see I'm throwing starfish into the ocean because if they're out, they will die, right? So I need to throw them into the ocean." So the man, like, "Young man, it is not going to make any difference. There are thousands of starfish out here, and you won't be able to throw them out in time, right?" And then the boy came up and gave an answer after throwing one starfish into the ocean. He said it made a big difference for this one. So never worry that your work is actually impacting probably one person a lot of people will come up and comment that, you know what, you just saved one person, it's not making a big difference for the 7 billion people in the world. Like the same thing that I was doing while I was asking questions to you, right? And I keep on, and I was waiting for this answer to come, right? Someone coming up and telling me it doesn't matter if we save one person or 1,000 person. If we saved one person, it made a big difference for that particular one person. Maybe not from a world perspective, but if you look from a personal perspective of that person. So whatever small difference you think you're making from the world perspective, know that the person you are making that difference for is actually way too big, right? And never let anyone judge you for the good things that you do. Never let anyone tell you that you are not doing enough. Never let anyone tell you that, you know what, I don't do it because hey, it doesn't make any difference. Just know if you're taking a positive action, it might be very small in your eyes, but it's big in someone else's. So always keep on taking those actions and make a difference. So thank you, everyone. It was really wonderful taking this training and talking from my heart about a lot of things. So yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, please direct it to me. I know it took a long training. It took about 3.5 hours, but I hope I could make it interesting.
Thank you, Mayadi. I hope I sound it correctly.
We enjoyed and learned. It is my second training from you, but really good.
Thank you.
It
Any
was really
questions,
nice.
guys?
Yes,
You
Bhaiya, I have a question.
kept it interesting.
Eye-opening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I think we have a question from Sanjida. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mehdi bhai, for the presentation. It's really good. The whole training was really give us a lot of thought, food for thought. So what I was thinking of, one thing which come to my mind, maybe it is because my lack of knowledge, but it might be so everybody already know, but still for my lack of for my knowledge, I want to know. So if our organization is doing some, because we are talking about the corporate social responsibility, suppose I know any business or any organization, whatever they are doing, they are actually doing some impact the society and the environment, right? So how do we measure this? Like how do we know how much uh, how much damage we are doing and how much corporate social like how do we balance it? Like how much money or something we should give
How do
back
you
to the
balance it?
society? Yes. How do I know this measurement?
Okay, so let me be very blatant on this, right? So in the world, not one country is doing enough, right? So we can just take one example of carbon footprint, right? So damaging the society, planet. So only one country out of 196 countries in the world has a positive carbon footprint, which means the amount of carbon that is emitted into the society and the amount of oxygen that is emitted in the society, oxygen is way more. That one country is Bhutan, which has a positive carbon footprint. Apart from Bhutan, no country has ever been able to do enough. So if your question is how would I know, am I doing enough? You are not doing enough, know that, right? uh, how much you're trying to do enough is not happening, and we're trying so hard, every corporation is trying so hard, still I think it's not happening. So again, as I already said, you will never do enough, but that doesn't mean don't stop doing it. Keep on doing it. Someday obviously we'll reach there where we say we have done enough, but I think that day is still too far. So start taking actions and keep doing as small as possible, because that's how we will probably solve the issue in the future.
Anyway, if you
Bhaiya,
allow me, I want to add one point to the question of Sanjida.
Sure, Ekyo, please.
sure, Bhaiya, I have like my question was actually to understand, like if I want to convince my employer to do this thing, So that was my thinking. So my thinking was, if I want to convince my employer, I want to show him that this is how much we have producing carbon footprint or whatever, all those environment,
So,
and now this is what we need to go back, give back. So that's what I wanted to show.
So let me try to answer this. First of all, uh, the first question that you said, first question I would say, as long as you are uh, giving positive energy or positive things to the nature or society uh, more, then you are giving harm to the nature, you are fine. For example, whatever the unit is, if your unit of giving back oxygen to the community is 100 and you are damaging or giving carbon dioxide is 95, you are fine, you are on the right track, you are a CSR aligned company. So think about trees. Trees not only produce oxygen, trees also produce carbon dioxide. We all know that. So trees produce carbon dioxide, but trees produce oxygen more than they produce carbon dioxide. That's why they are good. That's why they are sustainable. A company needs to think like a tree. So you, for your production, might produce a lot of waste, but as long as you are giving enough or more to the society or the community, then you are producing waste, you are fine, you're on the right track. Now, coming to the second question, that how do you convince your management? Again, I mentioned this point earlier on. Management, the sole existence of a company is to produce profit. That is, you have to understand. That is why the company exists. So you have to go to your management a, with an innovative way so that they can reduce cost, or either reduce cost or increase profit by adopting your way. That is the only way. Again, I mentioned, the only way my manager was convinced to go paperless is because the cost of ink, cost of electricity, cost of paper, everything got reduced. No management in the world would go so much out of their way to incur extra cost so that the company can go green. So going to your management with an innovative solution so that they can gain some kind of financial benefit or financial edge, keeping your environment or keeping your SDGs in mind. That is when your management is going to get convinced, and that's one step closer to being a CSR responsible company. I hope I could make it clear.
Yes, Bhaiya, thank you very much, Akio. It was really good. Thank you. It makes complete sense.
Thanks, Ekyo. Anyone has any other question? Seems.
Yeah, we didn't fill up the attendance form. Actually, there was a problem.
I think it was later corrected, right, guys?
No, we
Yes, now
didn't.
it is working
Can,
fine.
Yeah.
can you give the link again? Okay.
Let me check. The link is provided again, so please register if you haven't. And since you guys got to know each other a lot, because this is the first time I tried to ensure that the group works are done, that is team works are done. So what I will do is after you register, I will share the email addresses along with names of every participant here so that you can later network with each other and talk more. Just email addresses, no phone numbers will be shared. So yeah. I already saw Akio sharing phone number. Good. So I think, guys, that's it for today. We took a lot of time. So I wish you all the best and stay connected, stay socially responsible. Thank you very much and stay safe.